Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. With me in the studio, as always, is the man himself, the myth, the legend, Mr. Eric J. Morin.
We you know what we need after that? What we need, like, Reese, you need to drop in some like clapping noise or something. You know how like on the radio shows they do like there's like clapping noise or something, like so have to clap for himself. Anyhow, glad to be here. It's a good morning.
Eventually it'll be like The Price is Right. Come on down. You'll like swing into frame.
It needs to sound like there's like a giant audience, right? That it needs to be some kind of fanfare. It's something, you know, right? We need some kind of fanfare music. Anyhow, good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I think it was funny when we had our workshop last weekend, and one of the doctors that we've mentioned on here, I was telling her we were going to get her on the podcast, and she started referencing my introductions. And when we get her on, and this is like, I didn't forget it. You're going to do the intro when you come on as a guest on this podcast. You're going to do the intro. It was funny. She was mimicking me, and I was laughing so hard. She will be a great guest. We're going to have her on I'm determined to get her on the podcast in the next few weeks. So glad to be back in the studio. I think you had something specific you wanted to talk about today, and you know, this could end up being a 30-minute podcast or an hour-long podcast just because of what we're going to talk about. So I'll let you kind of tee it up a little bit, and then we'll kind of roll as we always do.
For me, thinking about this podcast, I was having a conversation on the way in this morning, and we were talking about this concept of going all in and what massive results somebody can get if they do something all in, right? And so, you know, whether it's, you know, wealth, health, relationships, like if people go all in, they get massive results. That's just what happens. Even from a physical fitness standpoint, you know, if somebody they would drop, let's just say that you have chemotherapy, or, you know, you're going through cancer treatment or of some sort, you know, if you're going through heart disease or whatever, like if your bill came from the hospital and at the end of the day it was $30,000 or whatever it was, you'd pay it, right? Because you'd have to, or they come take your stuff. But on the front side of that, what you could do is, like, you could hire a trainer, you could hire a nutritionist, you could have someone make your meals, you could like, if you really cared, like people say, well, I want to lose 20 pounds, so I'll do the cabbage diet or whatever it is, you know, the carnivore diet or whatever it is this week.
Yeah.
And but there is a massive result, and we actually are all aware that this result exists. We actually are. We're in tune with the fact that there is a massive result for all of us in anything we do and everything we do, if we just decided that was going to be the case, right? And it's our scarcity around what if, right, that holds us back. But we would know that if I was to hire a trainer, and if I was to hire a nutritionist, and I was to hire someone to make my meals, and I was to show up at the gym every day, and I was to, you know, get up every morning. If I had someone like standing, for those of you who can't get out of bed in the morning, like somebody who like grabs you and pulls you out of bed or whatever, like you could pay someone to do that, but that's kind of creepy. But if you have that, like, there's no doubt you could get massive results. And if that's the case, then massive results are available to all of us. The thing is most people are scared to take massive action. And we say things like massive action. We say things like giant growth. We say things like, you know, the exponential thinking and abundance mindset. And I was talking about it in our workshop, saying, you know, that stuff's hard, right? It is hard. Like one of the things that I want to dispel is this idea of that, like, servant leadership was a term that it started in the 1970s, but then everyone started using, we're servant leadership, and not even really know what it means. Well, abundance mindset and scarcity mindset have kind of done the same thing. People are like, I'm an abundance thinker, I'm high energy, and I think about great things, and I turn off the news. And it's like, that's so freaking elementary. That's so 101. That's so elementary. Like, abundance mindset is more than that. And the people that really, but to become abundance in your thinking, at some point, you have to take massive action. If you're not full of stuff, right? If you're not full of it, if instead of just putting it on your bumper sticker, like, or you know, maybe it's your bumper sticker in your brain. If you're real about being an abundant thinker, then at some point you got to do something that scares the living hell out of you. And it's got to be so damn big because you realize that, we talked a few weeks ago about the Eric J. Morin scale of uncertainty, right? And I come back to that because I was talking even to this marketing company this morning. We were having this conversation. I said, the thing is, the reason why people don't get marketing results is because they're scared. They put in $3,000 a month. They put in like these little tiny sums, and they're like, and then if they don't get a result in a day, they want to fire their marketing company. It's like the marketing company didn't work. It's like, or did you just not commit to marketing? Did you just not commit and say, look, it's probably going to cost me $100,000 to probably like explode this thing if I do it right. If I build this out marketing wing right, it's probably going to cost me $100,000. Now, here's the crazy part. Well, I'm not going to, people don't want to, I'll go buy a Cyric or something that sits in my office or a new laser, but I won't invest the massive growth that a company could get if they just invested in consulting, if they invested in marketing, if they invested in the right things, would be exponential. Mm-hmm. It would be exponential. Go ahead.
I think you have to get uncomfortable. I think that's the biggest thing. And you see it with success in general. It's just the uncomfortability that you are willing to take. I think when you go all in, and I would hope that every single one of these listeners have at some point gone all in on something. In the first even 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of it, it's uncomfortable. It's not a lot of fun. It's a lot of just kind of powering through, pushing through in order to be successful. I think, that's the biggest thing. If you look at any kind of industry study, if you look at anything that great leaders or great business owners have done in their lifetime, they were uncomfortable for a long period of time. I think most businesses, when they first started out, profitability is low, and they're uncomfortable, and then it starts to rise. It's just like in a gym, at some point it takes 6 to 8 weeks for you to get results. And even the results that you get aren't like, you're not going to be Zac Efron immediately or Chris Hemsworth immediately. It's just not how life works. But if you do that consistently for a 6-month time period, you're going to get results. So it's all, back to the scarcity versus abundance, that really falls in with mindset that you need to have to be successful. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And I think we talked about it at the workshop, and I love using it all the time, is the 4 C's. I think that if you just talked to yourself through the 4 C's, you would end up being successful. You would say, all right, it's going to take some courage.
Which are?
Let me see if I can test myself. Courage. Yep. Takes courage to do it, which builds confidence, or is a commitment first?
So you have courage to make the commitment, right? Yep. Which goes back down to the thing. It's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever this is. I'm going to make a commitment to it. I'm going to make a commitment to massive growth in my organization. I'm going to make a commitment to my marriage. I'm going to commitment to my health. I'm going to do something to my wealth. I mean, I'm going to, in the next year, I'm going to explode my wealth. I'm going to add another $1 million of net worth. I'm going to, whatever it ends up being, right? I'm going to go do this. And then you say, okay, all right. So I'm going to make this commitment, which I got to be honest, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared to do this because it's going to take some courage. I mean, it's not easy, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. But I know then that I need some capabilities. If I could just do it myself, then I probably wouldn't need capabilities, right? I need to go get the capabilities, whether it's knowledge that I need to gain for myself, or whether it's a team around me, whether, if it's health, a trainer, or whatever it ends up being. If it's a relationship, maybe it's a counselor. If it's wealth, right? A planner or someone like, Towers Advisory Team. So someone like that, like I need someone to coach me on that. And it isn't until I get results that I get confidence. And what ends up happening is like, it's interesting. I was like, let me ask 20 people who've used you, and that's still not going to give you confidence. Nobody gets confidence until they get results. It isn't until like you stand in front of that mirror and you look and you go, wow, that that, hey, look, I got results. So now I made a commitment to the gym and my health. It took me some courage. I had to, change up my routine. I got the capabilities, whether it's nutrition, the gym, the membership, someone to prep my meals, whatever it was. And then when I got results, I'm like, I know this works now. It's the same thing what happens. I'll give you a personal example. he was just at my house one day. This guy's like jacked. So I started working with this trainer. And by the way, I've never seen anything like this because I've never really spent time with professional bodybuilders, right? We're always like just kind of weekend warrior builders.
Yeah.
And so he comes, he's at my house and like I went to go like hug him, like to say goodbye. And this dude's like back, like just massive, right? And I don't want to do that, by the way. So those are you, like, I'm not competing on that. That's not what I'm trying to get accomplished. But so the thing about it, which was so cool, was that I hired him about, I started really following his routine a few months ago. And, at first it was like, God, Eric, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I've had a trainer for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I've stayed in the same shape. How do I know this guy's going to be any different? I don't. But I decided to hire him. And then, so as the capabilities, right? I had to make a commitment to a new program. I had to get rid of my other trainer, which I did. It took me some courage and because I didn't know if it was going to work, and I made a commitment, and now I'm working with this guy who's bringing in things I've never even heard of. He says when he talks, I don't even know what he's saying half the time because it's all this crazy terminology around your health and things that stimulate muscle growth and all these other things. And he's talking, and I'm like, man, I hired the right capability. Like, this guy knows his stuff, and I'm just blown away. And then I've gotten the results so fast. I'm like, wow. But now I have confidence. Now when this guy tells me, hey, jump, I jump, right? Yeah. When we get the confidence, we then say, hey, look, I got to do it. But if I never make the commitment, if I don't have the courage, if I don't do it, if I ask 100 other people their opinion before I hire this new trainer, if I don't allow him his process to work, and he says, hey, give me a 10 and I give him a 6, right, effort-wise, then I don't ever get there. I mean, we see this all the time where people want to come into an organization like Tower, and they're coming in at a 4 or 5, and they're never really going to do the work anyhow. And they don't really want to do the work. They just signed up for the membership because they want to say to their friends that they went to the gym. But what does it mean going all in your life? Like, what does it mean to go frickin' all in? What does it mean to go all in your practice? If you were to go all in and you want to create $5 million worth of increased net worth this year, if you wanted to double the practice in the next 12 months, if you wanted to get out of the clinical chair this year, what would it take? Ask yourself a better set of questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's even like, okay, so what if you wanted to pay off all your debt? Could you pay off all your debt? It's almost the end of March. Could you pay off all your debt by the end of the year using your dental practice? It was funny, and I'm not going to mention who the doctor is, but it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We had a doctor that was telling us that she was really focused in on paying off her debt, and she was her and her husband were eating bologna sandwiches.
Bologna sandwiches, yeah, I remember this.
Bologna sandwiches, because she was so focused in. She was all in on trying to pay off her debt. That was her biggest thing, and people aren't willing to do that, which is the craziest thing to me, especially when you own a business. When I get phone calls in, or when I used to get phone calls in, now Ken gets the phone calls in, it's always funny because, I can always tell when someone's never gone all in on something. I think, when they're asking me for 15 references in order to just come to a 2-day event, and they're like, can I speak to this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and they have to be a specialist in this field. And I'm like, why don't you just come to this event, see if this is, if our philosophies align, if you're willing to take the effort, because even if you talk to people, it's still going to get the same result, a quick fix solution. You're just hoping someone can give you this magic, weight loss Ozempic to make you lose a bunch of weight. Right. And that's all that's going to happen. Yeah, you could take Ozempic, but you're just going to have loose skin. Like, if you don't go work out, it's not like it's going to result in anything. So I think when you look at everything, you got to say, what am I willing to do? That's the biggest thing before you come in. And if it's got to be ambitious enough to make you push through the hard times. It's got to be like, I'm this age, or I want to surpass these people, or, I want to provide this for my family. I think, our listeners are medical practice owners. Ultimately speaking, you have the ability to go set up a legacy that could impact you, your kids' kids, your kids' kids' kids. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you go all in. And there will be tough times. There will be challenges. There will be, what did you call it? What did you phrase the chart a long time ago? The entrepreneurial, where it's like, oh, we're having a great day. The hygienist quit. Oh, record collections. Oh, the associate's leaving. Like, you coined that a long time ago. But I think, when you get through that, you have to be able to push through. And I think the ones that go all in and they build systems around them, I think those are the ones that get the most success. And we see it time and time again.
Well, I was sharing a story during our workshop on Thursday about a doctor that another advisor at Tower was working with. And so I said I stole the client because I met this guy and I was like, this guy's got that he's got the magic. He's got the mindset. Like he's got it. Like he wants it. He's willing to go all in. Like I knew it. I was like, man, this guy is going to go all in. So I get on the phone with him. It's a first phone call. And I said to him, I said, look, here's the deal. I said, what do you want? And he says, look, and I always start there. What do you want? He says, I want to be out of clinical dentistry within the next, 3 to 5 years. I want to grow X percent. I said, look, why don't we do this? I can get you out of the dental chair in the next 4 or 5 months. I can double your practice. I can do that. I said, all you got to do is because I knew he had the mindset to go all in. And so then I said to him, I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. In the next 30 days, I want you to do blank, 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 blank. I told him exactly what to do. And he went back and did every darn thing I told him and more and more. And he comes back after 30 days and I'm like, holy crap, you just doubled the revenues of your practice in 30 days. Doctors, he doubled the revenues in 30 days by just listening to what I had to tell him because he went all in. Then he comes back and I had a project set up for August. He was like, I already took care of that. I already jumped on this. That guy right there, all I got to do, he's already got the gasoline, man. All I got to do is light the match. And this guy, I tell him exactly what to do. I will take this guy and take his practice and absolutely explode it. And sure enough, our last phone call, he gets a phone call from a group that he was a part of. And it was like, hey, will you come back and help us? Will you come back and be a part of? Hell no. Because watch what we do. And so, but what's the difference between him and you? I mean, or him and the most successful? He gets it. He wants it. He's going to have the courage to just listen to me when I say, go do this. He's surrounding himself with the capabilities. He's paying for the information he needs. He's implementing the information and he's getting massive results. And it's like, well, hold on. Why can't I do that? Because it's mindset. I always tell people there's 2 limiting factors to your growth, mindset and capital. And that's it. It's mindset and capital. And watch what I do with this guy. Watch you. I'll probably have him on the podcast. Watch what I do with this guy in about 12 to 24 months. This guy will be on the front. I mean, it's just insane because he's willing to do the work. Yeah. He's going all in.
The funny part of that is because I didn't know that his old partners were like, hey, you should come back. So I talked to that gentleman, I don't remember, 2-3 years ago, and I convinced him to come to the foundation workshop. And he had just left the partnership. And I remember talking to him and he said that the partners were like, all right, good luck. You're not going to be able to create this on your own. Like, good luck trying to do this in the marketplace. It makes me so happy for that gentleman because it goes back down to, all right, so when you want to go all in, there's going to be outside forces that are telling you it is not going to work. You cannot create it. So there's going to be, and we talked about this, a few years back of guard your cup. There's going to be people telling you, it doesn't matter if you go on. It doesn't matter if you do this. It doesn't matter if you do that. You're never going to be able to do it. Those are the ones that have never gone all in themselves. Those are the ones that'll never get there. They're always going to be just mediocre. So he made a switch. He knew, he used it kind of as fuel, and was like, all right, fine, let's do it. I'm going to do it. And it's just like a breath of fresh air to hear the second part of that story of them basically calling him, say, hey, you should come back at this point.
Yeah. Well, they're begging him to come back. And I told him, I was like, why would you go back with them? Why would you take a third of the practice when you can take 100%? Yeah. That'd be a poor wealth move. Extremely poor.
So what would you say is, we do see sometimes people go, they go all in and then they reach a peak. So they reach a peak, we call it, the sigmoid curve. They're hitting maturity. So they've gone all in. Do you have any thoughts on, all right, how do you push through to the next level? Like, how do you, if say you go all in and you go all in for 12 months and you've gotten the results and all of this, what do you use as motivation to kind of, I guess, go all in again? Because we've all, we've gotten results in the gym, we've done those type of things, and then eventually, it starts to fall off a little bit. How would you ground yourself almost to be like, all right, let's re-engage, let's jump back in? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned the gym and you said, we've gotten there and then we kind of cool off or whatever. But and I talked about this last week, which is there's a personal sigmoid curve as well as a business one. And that happens, right? We hit a growth phase in our lives, whether it's personally or professionally or whatever. And then we get to a place where if we do not jump again, we cool off. And you just said it, which is, okay, I went to the gym, I got results, I started growing, I lost some weight. And then what ends up happening is we don't then push to the next level. We instead allow ourselves to cool off. We kind of go, well, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger and some fries. Well, I'm going to do this. Well, I'm just going to skip this. If you look at the sigmoid curve, then it goes into maturity, which is there's maturity of where you're at, and then back into decline. Isn't that funny that it does just that? That your body, your health, your wealth, your fitness, your relationships, they all follow the exact same thing. If you don't continue to push at the same level or even a greater level, you'll never get there. We've had practices before who were like, okay, thank you so much to our leadership. You've helped us grow significantly. I'm out of the dental chair. So now I'm just going to cool off. Like, I'm just going to relax. I'm going to just enjoy this. I'm like, you're going to go in decline. Like you will eventually go to maturity and then decline because you're not pushing the organization to get to the next level. And that doesn't mean you need to work more. It just means you need to get higher capabilities around you to continue to grow this organization. But that's completely ridiculous. Like, you don't ever stop that. So so for instance, myself, I've been in the same shape for about 4 years. I'm physically fit. I've got my labs are those of a 31-year-old. We were just on that was kind of fodder for the conversation at the party. We were sitting there saying, Eric's lab's like a 31-year-old. Well, that's because I cut out a lot of things and I've been in the same place every time. But I was cooling off. I was like, I need to get to the next level. Like I don't feel like I'm making progress. So then it's like, I probably waited too long, I would argue. I probably should have moved over a year ago. And so then I jumped, and now I'm with a guy who, like, I don't know when I would outgrow this guy. I mean, his knowledge base, what he's got me doing, and the check-ins that he does. And now I'm like, man, I'm gonna be on this podcast busting out some shirts, Matthew. I mean, you gotta watch out. so yeah, we
Reese is gonna have to zoom out.
I'm telling you, man, this bicep's going to cut
too big on the screen.
But that's it. Why are my labs? I mean, my doctor last year at the end of the year said, this is not about me. It's about my point of success in a process. But my doctor said, I went to the Mayo Clinic. I spend 2 or 3 days there usually every year, and I do a complete workup. And so anyhow, the doctor goes, hey, take your hands, ball them up in fists. I said, yeah. And he goes, now put them in the air. He was like, because your health is just unbelievable. My testosterone is what it should be when I was like 31 years old. Now, what do I attribute that to? I attribute that to daily disciplines every single day and not eating a lot of stuff that people eat and not doing a lot of things that a lot of people do and not drinking alcohol in excess and all those types of things. But your business and your wealth are the same way. You're like you want to create massive wealth. You got to push yourself to the next level. Like you got to create massive wealth. Here's a hint. It's not your damn 401k. Like you got to get uncomfortable to a degree that, and even if you were going to use that antiquated, approach, I mean, it is if you got a business, but if you're going to use that approach, well then fine, then go all in and get and give as much possible to the financial advisor. So, along the way they can get wealthy, but you could retire, quote unquote, if you were going to do that process. Better yet, you could take your business earning, 15 to 30 to 40%, whatever your business is doing, and absolutely explode your wealth. There's not a person listening to this damn podcast who cannot explode their wealth in the next 12 to 36 months. Not a person listening to this podcast who couldn't pay off all their debt. There's not a person listening to this podcast who couldn't double their practice. But you'd have to go all in. You'd have to commit in a way you've never committed. You'd have to get uncomfortable as hell. You'd have to get out of bed early. You'd have to put in the work. And most people aren't willing to do the work, and they're too damn scared to do it. So they'll always live this kind of a mediocre life. And there was years ago when I was a young man, because I came from nothing. There was times when I grew up, And I would look at the doctors at the country club and think that that was success or something, because I came from such a humble beginning. And now I look and I'm like, you don't want to be one of those people. You don't want to be the person sitting around in khaki pants that are 4 sizes too big at the country club, sitting around eating fatty food, drinking beer all day. Get your ass off the golf course and get back into your practice and make stuff happen. If you have the ability to transform people's lives and you don't do it, you're selfish. Get away from the golf ball and get back into the ball of your business and get going, because there's so much to create and so much to build and so much to do. And that doesn't mean you can't play golf. It doesn't mean you can't, go. But it's like that shouldn't consume you. The idea of like, well, I can't wait to the day where I sit around and play golf. I live like basically the country club is around the corner from me and I have a membership, and people are like, how many times did you play last year? I'm like, 2. Like, why? Because I'm growing a business, because I'm serious, because that's a game. It's not my life. And so when I hear doctors who are like, I play golf every Friday morning with the same people, I'm like, look, man, you're probably not the right fit for me, because I'm looking for people who are trying to explode it. And if you're spending 50 days a year hitting a golf ball, man, you're missing it. You're missing it. And I'm getting a little bit passionate here, but I want you guys to hear me on this. Like you only get so many years on this planet. You only get time to do so much. And that doesn't mean you can't take time off, and it doesn't mean you can't go play golf. Certainly you should take time to decompress and relax and regenerate. Of course you should. But it shouldn't be your sole focus. It sure as hell shouldn't be 30 to 40% of your focus. Your focus should be on creating something amazing so you can impact the lives of others. Go create massive wealth. I also look at the guy like that who's on the golf course every, Friday and his net worth's 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million. I'm like, that's not wealth. That's just not wealth, especially these days. Not a massive wealth. It's certainly you're not going to leave a huge legacy. You probably hope you die before your money runs out, because it's not enough. I mean, that's just not enough to get you where you want to be. So like, what is that number that's going to help you have, generational impact? That's going to move the practice. It's going to have you got to take massive action. And the sad part is the vast majority of people never will. And they'll be okay with a mediocre net worth and a mediocre, they'll look at the peers around them and they'll go to the country club. They'll look at the peers around them and they go, well, I mean, Jim's here and Pete's here and Sally's here and we're all doctors. So, I mean, I guess I made it. It's like, man, get into a different pond. You're in the wrong pond.
I think, when you go all in, be cautious of the void too. Eventually you're going to get to a point where you go all in for a considerable amount of time. You get massive results. And what those results are going to do is free up time for you to have, it's going to create a void. So you have to be productive enough to figure out what that void is. And it shouldn't be, golf every Friday. Like, it shouldn't be those things. Like, think about how you can fill the void with meaningful things, whether that be helping your team grow, whether that be opening up another business or investing over here or leading a mentorship over here. So when you go all in, you're going to get results. What will creep up on you is something that we've talked about on the podcast several times, is filling the void. So even when you get results in the gym and you start, for 12 months, you get it and you are in peak physical condition. You already have your routine. It's gone into your routine now. If you stick with it, you're going to be in good shape. But it's become a little bit on the easier side for you. Easy in the reference of, all right, I know I got my routine. 4 a.m. I'm going to be in the gym. I'm going to go to the gym in the afternoon. I'm going to eat this stuff. And you know what? That's my routine now. I've got that down. But since it's part of your routine, a void is created of, all right, so where do I put the energy, the hard work that I was putting into this, that's part of my routine now, into something else. So just be cautious of that and think of what's the next thing. And it's almost like you said with the personal sigmoid curve. You got to figure out where your next jump is going to be. So after, when you get to that, you don't make a jump in the decline or the maturity phase. You make a jump in the growth phase. So if you think about this, think about, when I go all in, these are the results I can expect. When I get those results, what do I do now? Like, what's the next jump? Always be looking ahead, always be improving, always be growing. And I wanted to make that point because I know sometimes people are going to go all in and they're going to be ready to go. You need to be weary of, okay, this is going to create some type of void and I need to be able to fill it productively. You know, we don't want you ultimately, we want to work with the people that don't want to stare at Fox News all day or CNN all day on the couch, those type of things. They want to fill the void with, you know, going to help charities out, going to help the community out, those type of things. So start thinking about what those look like. This has been a great one. I think this podcast to me is what everyone needs to hear. You know, we're ending the Q1 already, which is crazy. When I was at the workshop last week and I mentioned, like, I was like, it's March. Wow, that's it's already March, people. If you haven't gone all in 2024 yet, it's not too late. Figure out how you can go all in, what you need to bring into your organization, who you need to bring into your organization in order to go all in, to set yourself up for a great 2024. With that being said, Mr. Morin, it's always a pleasure being in the studio, getting to do these podcasts. We were back-to-back weeks of me being in the office, and now we're back to virtual. I'll be back at the office in a couple weeks, and we'll be able to do another one. So, as always, Mr. Morin, pleasure is all mine to have you in the studio, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys soon.